Hey y'all, today's video is all about pizza. So this is a compilation video. I just wanted to share my favorite pizza recipes. So we're going to start out by getting our dough made, okay? So to your bowl, you're going to want to add 3/4 of a cup of warm water, about 100 degrees if you have a way to measure it. If not, really, really hot tap water has also worked for me. So either way you want to do it, whatever you got. Then we're going to add 1/2 tablespoon of sugar and 1 packet of the active dry yeast. Now, this is not the quick acting yeast, the fast rise. This is just the regular. We're going to go ahead and add that into our sugar and water, and then we're going to mix it around real good just to kind of make sure our yeast is, good and incorporated down in the water. And then my house is really cold, so I just go ahead and put a little towel over the top of the bowl. And then you don't want to let that sit for about 5 or 10 minutes, But I just let it sit while I'm getting the dry ingredients together. So to your bowl, you're going to add 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, and the other 1/2 teaspoon of that sugar. Because we need a full teaspoon of sugar for the recipe, but we want to use 1/2 of it in with our water and yeast, because that sugars get that yeast all nice and activated. And then we just go ahead and add the other 1/2, right into, our flour. And then you're just going to want to mix that up real good, And y'all, if you don't want to make homemade pizza dough, you certainly don't have to. You can do the other steps just on a regular store-bought dough if that's the route you want to take. But I will tell you, there is something about a darn homemade pizza crust. It is so good. And you can always add things to it. You can add some Italian seasoning or some garlic or, whatever, just to doctor up your crust if you want to. But I was just keeping it simple this day, just so I could show y'all the basics. So after about 5-10 minutes, you see our yeast is nice and bubbly. So now we're going to go ahead and get it mixing. Now I'm using my stand mixer here because I'm fancy and I have one now. But you're going to want to use your dough hook. And if you don't have a stand mixer, or you don't have a stand mixer that has a dough hook, you can knead this by hand. It's just going to be, you just going to wear yourself out. But not really, y'all. You can do it by hand. You just need to knead it a pretty good, bit of time to make sure that it gets good and incorporated and that the dough gets to the consistency that it needs to. So I turned my dough hook on low, kind of a low medium. I think I sped it up to medium after a minute or two. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in a tablespoon of oil. Now, I should have added this to my liquid mixture in the beginning, but par for the course, honey. Winging a prayer over here. I done forgot. So I just went ahead and added it in here, and it's fine. I just went ahead and mixed it, let it mix up some more until all my oil was, incorporated into my dough. So you're going to want to let this mix until it's a little bit sticky, but you see it's not sticking to my finger there, like none of the dough was stuck to my finger. That's what you want. Okay. So, y'all, I found this contraption on Amazon, and this has been the best thing. Look, it don't slip. Nothing sticks to it. It's just a silicone mat, and it covers up those obnoxious tiles that I have on my counter that I cannot stand. And let me tell you, it was way cheaper than replacing the countertops. So, I will link it down below. If anybody is interested, or if you are in the same predicament I am with these countertops, this thing is really nice. So I went ahead, and the dough hook had done most of the work for me, but I went ahead, dropped a little flour down, and just kneaded around just for a minute. Now, I didn't cut any of me kneading this out, so you're seeing exactly how much I did, like, a few seconds of doing this. That's all I did. And then you can kind of put it into a little ball. And then I like to press into the top. If it bounces back, see how it's bouncing back like that? It's good and soft, but it's holding together real well. Well, now you know it's ready, okay? So to our bowl, we're going to add some olive oil. I added about maybe a tablespoon-ish of olive oil. You just want to make sure that you get the bottom and the sides of your bowl coated really well. And that way when your dough rises, it won't stick to your bowl, you know. So just get it good and coated. And this is just like a little pastry brush. And then I take my little dough ball and I put it, see how it's bouncing back in case y'all couldn't see it a while ago. But we're going to put that down in our bowl. Make sure, you know, like I said, make sure it's all good and coated. Now, I had a little extra oil on my brush, so I just went ahead and brushed that right onto the top of my dough. Or you could put it in there, flip it over, you know, however. Just get a little thin coating of oil on your whole dough ball. It'll help it. It'll keep it from sticking, and it'll keep it from drying out while it's rising, right? So what I do is turn the light on in my oven. Don't turn your oven on. Cover it up, let it sit in there for about an hour. So after an hour, you see it's doubled up. It's pretty big. So I go ahead and just push the air out of it. You can poke it with your fingers. You can punch it with your fist, however you want to do it. Just kind of poke the air out of it. Then we're going to sprinkle down a little bit of flour, and we're going to go ahead and get our dough nice and rolled out into our pizza crust. Now, it's a little sticky because of the oil and everything, so that's why I put just a little bit of flour. You don't need a whole lot. And while we're rolling it out now, go ahead and get your oven preheating to 450, okay? So I just went ahead and I floured my rolling pin just a little bit because I didn't want to tear this pretty dough up on a dry rolling pin. And you're just going to want to roll it out. Now, I like a thin pizza, so I roll mine out pretty thin. If you like your crust a little thicker, you can roll it out, you know, not quite so thin. And of course, I couldn't get it in a perfect circle, but you know what? Who cares? It's pizza. It ain't got to be pretty. It just needs to be pizza crust, right? So just do the best you can. You see the little bubbles in there from our yeast? So we got some good looking dough here, y'all. It ain't a perfect circle, but it's good looking dough. So scooch that out of the way, and that's another good thing about that. You just take that to the sink, and you ain't even got to clean your counter, y'all. I'm telling y'all, I'm going to sing the praises of that thing. I use it all the time. So, all right, don't talk about my crusty pizza pan. I've had it for 137 years, and she works just fine. So just get you a pizza pan out. If you don't have a pizza pan, you can use a cookie sheet. Whatever it'll fit on, it'll be fine. So I just went ahead, and I'm just kind of, you know, trying to even my dough out a little bit. And like I said, it ain't a perfect circle, but you know what? Ain't none of us perfect either, so I can't expect my pizza dough to be. So then I just take a little fork and kind of poke around in it, and that way it won't have the, like, it won't bubble up. Now, if you don't mind the bubbles, you don't have to poke it. But, you know, I like mine to be kind of, like I said, I like mine kind of thin, so. And then I just went around the edges and just kind of rolled over the edges just to make, you know, like a pizza has a crust on the edge, like the edges, you know. So I wanted a little edge on my pizza, plus it kind of holds your toppings in there. So then you're just going to go ahead and put whatever pizza sauce you want on your pizza and just spread it out in a little layer. Now, I used pizza sauce because I had some, but I have also used spaghetti sauce. I've doctored up some tomato sauce. Whatever you have will work fine. You can also add extra things here like Italian seasoning, garlic, whatever. Like I said, I just kept it easy today. And then I went ahead and added some mozzarella cheese. You can add some Parmesan if you want. I do that a lot, but I didn't have any this day. And so you just add your mozzarella, put your layer of cheese, and then I just did pepperoni. Now, you could do bell peppers, onions, mushrooms. You could do sausage, hamburger, whatever you like on your pizza if you just want a veggie pizza. But I just went with a plain old pepperoni pizza this day because, again, I was trying to keep it easy, y'all. I wasn't trying to be in that kitchen all night. So once you get that all nice and made, you're going to pop this in the oven, 450 for about 12 to 15 minutes until your cheese is nice and golden brown and that crust is done. Okay, and this is what she looks like. I was trying to show y'all what it looked like underneath, but then I had to get a different angle so y'all could see. See, it's nice and browned underneath there. Your dough is done, and those edges are puffy and they're soft. Y'all, this is a great pizza dough recipe. If you don't have one already, you can also make this ahead and freeze it if you want to, and it'll still come out perfectly fine. So this is our pizza. It's really good. I'm telling y'all, it's really good. There ain't nothing like some good old homemade pizza. Today, we're making pepperoni pizza dip. So what you're going to need is 2 blocks of softened cream cheese, and make sure that they're good and soft because, again, we're going to be mixing by hand. Now, you definitely could use your mixer if you wanted to, but I just didn't see the sense in pulling out another dish to wash and, trying to make it easy on yourself. So make sure you set your cream cheese out. Let it get soft. I know I'm notorious for not sitting it out and forgetting about that, but I actually did remember this time. So just let your cream cheese get soft, and we're going to need 2 blocks of that. Put that right over into your bowl. Now, this is another dip that I made for our little family get-together that we had over the weekend, and as I mentioned before in the other video, I have a nephew that follows keto, so I wanted to make sure that I had some things that he and his fiance could eat, so they're not left out. I don't like leaving anybody out of stuff, y'all. So, make stuff that everybody likes, because even the people who don't follow keto were in love with this dip. Every single person. I'm just telling y'all, this is a good one. You're going to have to make it. So you're going to need about a cup of chopped pepperoni, and then you're going to need some more for the top. So you can use, this is just regular pepperoni, whatever the Hormel brand, I guess. You can use whatever brands you want. You could also use turkey pepperoni if you prefer turkey pepperoni. That would definitely work in here. And then the little mini pepperonis would also be real good in here. So whatever you have or whatever you can get your hands on will work just fine. I also almost browned up some ground beef to mix in with this, but at the last minute, I decided not to. I decided I would just keep this simple and just make it pepperoni pizza dip. But you could definitely make this like a supreme pizza dip and do like mushrooms, bell peppers, onions, sausage. You could really make this any way you wanted to. So once we get our pepperoni in there, we're going to go ahead and add in about a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. And then we're going to add about a half a teaspoon of garlic powder. And this is all the seasons we're going to put in here. We're putting a lot of cheese, so you're not going to need, and with the cheese combined with the pepperoni, you're not going to need to add salt to this. We didn't add any salt. Literally, that's the only seasonings I put in there, and it's all it needed. Y'all, this stuff was so good. But anyway, now you're going to add in there your cheeses. You need 1/4 cup of Parmesan and about 2 cups of shredded mozzarella. But you're also going to need another cup of mozzarella for the top. Okay, we're just going to mix 2 cups in and then have another cup for the top. Then we're going to add in about 1/2 cup of cottage cheese. And don't let that freak you out. If you're like, oh, I don't like cottage cheese, I don't like the texture, I don't like this. It's all going to be mixed in and it's going to be baked. You're never even going to know that there's cottage cheese in there. It's just going to make this dip a little bit cheesier, a little bit creamier, okay? So once you get everything added in your bowl, go ahead and mix it up real good until everything is nice and combined, okay? And like I said, you really could add anything you want to this. Now, this again is a dip that I made the night before. I put the whole thing together the night before, and then I baked it the next day to save myself some trouble. But if you're going to bake it the same day, you can absolutely do that. It's just an option of something that you can make ahead, okay? So we're going to go ahead and put this in an 8x8 pan. And I sprayed it with some cooking spray, and that way when we do bake it, the next day or whatever, or the day of, if you do that, your cheese won't stick too bad to your pan. And I ended up serving this with, what are they called? Like the crostinis, like the little toasted, like, oh shoot, why can I not think of what the bread's called? Y'all know, like garlic, shoot, you know what I'm talking about. What garlic bread comes on. Why can I not think of it, y'all? I'm going to think of it as soon as I stop talking. But anyway, that's what we served it with. So you can either buy it already fixed up in like the bakery section of your store. I got it at Walmart. Or you can slice French bread. That's what it is, French bread. You can slice it up yourself and just toast it in the oven. And that, like I said, that's what we served it with. Except for my nephew, I had made him some low-carb tortillas. I cut those and seasoned them and air-fried them and made chips out of them. And so that's what he and his fiance had with our pizza dip. But y'all, let me tell you, This stuff was so good. I was like, I can't even believe it's this good. It's like if you order your favorite takeout pizza and you just pull the topping off of it and you don't eat the crust. That's exactly what this tastes like. So you have to make it. And don't worry about me scraping all that down with my hand. I promise y'all, my hands were clean. So just spread this out in your pan about as even as you can get it. It's dip. It does not have to be perfect. We're not entering any kind of contest of looks on this dip, right? Even though it does look pretty dang good when we finish it. So then you're going to add about, I added maybe 3/4 of a cup, maybe a cup of pizza sauce to this. You could actually use spaghetti sauce, or you can season you up some tomato sauce. Whatever way you like to make your pizza sauce, you can use, do it that way. I think the original recipe, which I think I found it on TikTok and I just kind of wrote it down. So I'm sorry if I can't link to who where the original recipe came from, because I don't remember, y'all. But I think it called for a whole lot more sauce, but this was plenty to me. So once you get your sauce on, you're going to go ahead and add that last cup of mozzarella cheese and just sprinkle it right on top. Obviously, you see, I'm not measuring. Well, I'm measuring with my heart, y'all. I'm measuring with my heart. But just a layer of mozzarella cheese, however much you want. If you want more, use more. If you want a little less, use a little less. Then we're going to go ahead and put on a layer of pepperoni. And I just covered it, just a whole layer of pepperoni. And that's all there is to this. And like I said, if you wanted to add like vegetables and stuff, you could either like mix them into your dip, or you can sprinkle them on top up here with your pepperoni. Whatever way you want to do it would be just fine. And I know it would absolutely be delicious. But I covered this, put it in the refrigerator overnight, and then the next morning when I got up, I let it sit out. I uncovered it, let it sit out for maybe 30 minutes on the counter just so it wouldn't screaming cold when it went in the oven. You're going to bake this for about 45 minutes on 375, and that is all there is to it. Y'all, this is so ooey gooey and cheesy and delicious, and let me tell you, there was none left. Everybody loved it. It was a huge hit. So you got to make it. You got to make it. Now, I know it doesn't look very diet friendly, and honey, if you're lactose intolerant, this may not be the dip for you. You know what I'm saying? But otherwise, maybe take a Lactaid and eat it anyway, because it's fantastic. So start out, we're going to need some cheese, some bell pepper, onions, ground beef, pepperoni, some spaghetti sauce or pizza sauce or whatever you have, some pasta, and then I had some mushrooms and some black olives. So go ahead and preheat your oven to 350, and then we're going to get this stuff put together. Now, to start out with, I'm going to go ahead and dice up my bell pepper and my onion. Now, you don't have to do this if you don't like bell pepper and onion. You can just use pepperoni. You don't have to do the mushrooms. You don't have to do the black olives. You can do sausage. You can do whatever you want to do. I'm not a fan of sausage, so I went with ground beef. And my pasta, by the way, is boiling on the stove behind me. But this is just what I chose to put in my pizza bake. So, but like I said, with anything else, like with the pizza, a regular pizza, you can customize this to however you want it. If you don't want to saute your vegetables, you can put them on there raw if that's the way you like it. Just however you want to do it. That's one of the best things about a dish like this. So now I'm just going to go ahead, and I already had this pot dirty from boiling the pasta, so I just rinsed it out, and I'm just going to go ahead and cook my vegetables and my ground beef in there, y'all, because why waste another pan, right? So I had some ground beef. I'd gotten some big packs at Sam's and put them into some Ziploc bags. So I used about maybe a half a pound, maybe a little bit more than half a pound. Go ahead and cook that until your vegetables are soft, your meat is brown, and then drain any of the grease off of it. Then we're going to add, this is one of those really big jars of spaghetti sauce. So if you have just a regular size jar, that would be fine, or half of one of these big ones. Just however thick you want your sauce, y'all. You know what I'm saying? And y'all don't mind my little island, bless it. I love this little island I got. I got it on Amazon. I'll link it down below if anybody needs one, because it's really nice, and it didn't take me long to put together at all. And the wheels lock, but I forgot to lock the wheels. That's why you keep seeing me shift the darn thing, but I really like it, y'all. So anyway, now what we're going to do is take an 8x8 pan, because of course I halved the recipe, and I just spray it with some cooking spray, and that way, you know, your noodles and stuff won't stick. And then, sort of like a lasagna, you're just going to go ahead and layer this, okay? So I just put a little bit of my spaghetti sauce and ground beef mixture down right in the bottom of my pan, just so my noodles will have something to sit on, you know, so they can kind of soak that up when they're cooking. So put about half of your noodles on, and this is probably a half pound of noodles. You know, if you're going to do a full 9x13, do a whole box of noodles. So I went ahead, because when I do pizza, if I have it, I like to use Parmesan cheese. So I sprinkled a little bit of Parmesan on there. And then I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle a little bit of mozzarella. And like I said, we're just going to layer this. Now, if you don't want cheese in every layer, don't put it in every layer. If you don't want vegetables in every layer, you don't have to put vegetables in every layer. You could just do the pasta and the pizza sauce, and then do the vegetables just on top. However you want to do it will be perfectly fine, and it will taste fantastic, okay? So after we get half our noodles down, we're going to put the next layer on. So put some of that sauce on, a little bit more mozzarella, a little bit more Parmesan, or a whole lot of Parmesan. You know, you do you. Nobody's judging you. Plus, we can't see what you're doing in your own kitchen anyway. Y'all can just judge me, since I'm putting mine out there for the world to see. But anyway, so in this middle layer, I decided I was going to go ahead and put in some of my mushrooms and my black olives. Now, remember, I cooked the bell pepper and the onions in with my ground beef. So we have those in there already. If you did not cook yours in with ground beef or sausage, or you didn't use ground beef or sausage, then you could certainly layer some onions and bell peppers, right in here too. So then I went ahead and I debated. I was like, am I going to put pepperoni in the middle, or am I not going to put pepperoni in the middle? But at the end of the day, y'all, it's not that much. I know it looks like a lot, and I ate on it for a week, but it's really not. I mean, it's, 10 pepperonis, you know what I'm saying? So don't feel bad. Just layer it on there. Just layer it on there, y'all. So once you get your, whatever you're putting in the middle there, whatever you decide to put, go ahead and put the last part of your noodles right on the top. Then we're going to add the rest of our spaghetti sauce. And I started scooping it on there and then realized, I don't know why I was doing that. So I just went ahead and dumped the rest of it right on there. So you're going to dump that on, spread it out, pretty even. And then go ahead and layer the final part of your toppings on. Now, this is another thing I know that people differ sometimes. If they put their, like the pepperoni and stuff under the cheese or on top of the cheese. And I really don't mind it either way, but I kind of wanted my pepperonis to kind of crisp up in the oven. You know what I'm saying? So I thought, I'm going to put my pepperonis on top. So I went ahead and put a little bit more Parmesan and a little bit more mozzarella. And then I went ahead and layered on just a few mushrooms and olives. Now, if you've been around for very long here, I like mushrooms cooked into things, but I'm not a big fan of just like eating a mushroom. Okay, so on my pizza, I like it. I like the little bit, every now and then to get a little bite of it, but I don't go crazy with the mushrooms or the black olives for that matter when I do pizza or like this pizza bake. So, but you put as much, you want to put the whole darn can on there, then honey, you put it right on there if that's what you want to do. And it'll be just fine. So once I put my little tiny layering of mushrooms and olives on there, I just went on ahead and put some pepperonis on there and tried to make it look neat. And what do y'all like on your pizza? Are y'all like plain pepperoni, folks? Or do y'all like a whole lot of vegetables on there? Or are you the very controversial pineapple goes on pizza kind of person? Let me know down in the comments, because I'm curious to know. I don't mind pineapple on pizza. It's not my favorite, but I will eat it. So, you know, everybody likes what they like. So my pan was kind of full, y'all. So I thought I'm going to put this on a cookie sheet and bake it, because I just cleaned my oven and I don't want to clean the darn thing again. So put it on a cookie sheet, pop it in your oven, and bake it for about 30 minutes. You're just going to bake it until your cheese is good and melted, because everything else is done. So as you can see, my little pepperoni's crisped up a little bit, and there you can see the layers. And don't worry, those noodles look like they don't have anything on them, but y'all, they were perfect. They're perfectly cooked. They had lots of flavor, and like I said, you can cut this into a whole bunch of pieces, just this small pan, because I ate on it, like I said, for a week. But it was delicious. So if you like pizza, but you want something just a little bit different, make this right here. It's super, super simple. And I mean, if you like pizza and you like pasta, you're going to love this thing. And I'm using the So Delicious coconut milk yogurt, but this time you use unsweetened. You don't want to use flavored yogurt for this, because we're making a pizza crust with it. So you take 1/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour and 1/4 of a cup of that whatever yogurt you can use, like Fage, the non-fat Greek yogurt, or, you know, whichever kind of non-fat yogurt you like, Great Value, whatever you have. And you just mix this together until it makes a dough. And a lot of times when you do this, it'll be super sticky. So just keep working with it. And if you need to add a little more flour, then just add a little more flour. And then we're going to grease, or not grease, we're going to spray some parchment paper on a cookie sheet. And then I just roll mine out. And I roll it out kind of in an oblong, because that's what the recipe told me to do 100 years ago when I first made it. So that's the way we do it. So you just roll it out, not super, super thin, because like I said, this is a crust, but you also don't want to leave it too thick to where your crust doesn't get done. So you're just going to roll it out until you get it like you want it. And then we're going to add all of our stuff. You're going to add spinach all around the outside, because you're kind of trying to make, with all your ingredients, you're making a little well, because that's where your egg is going to go. So you put your spinach, and then some mozzarella cheese, and then this is a little bit of chopped up bacon. And then I added the last of those little tomatoes that I had. And apparently that one tomato didn't want to act right. Then you just put an egg in the middle, little salt and pepper. Put this in the oven at 450 for about 10 to 12 minutes. You let it cook until your dough is done and your egg is as cooked as you want it. I like the middle of my egg a little bit runny. I think it tastes really good on this pizza. If you don't like a runny middle, cook it a little longer. But you can see here, mine is still going to be runny when I cut into it. And okay, so for this pizza pasta, you are just going to use whatever you like on a pizza. Okay, so that's what we're getting together, is the things that I like on a pizza. So I actually found this video over on In the Kitchen with Mama Mel, and if y'all have not seen her videos or her channel, y'all need to go check her out. She is the sweetest. So for me, I'm going to use 1 onion. Now you could definitely use half an onion, or you can leave the onion out if you don't like onion. So go ahead, get your onion diced up if you're using it. And then we're going to get our pasta cooking. Now I'm using a pound of pasta. This makes a ton, y'all. Now this box says 11 to 12 minutes, it'll be al dente, right? So we're going to want to cook this for 10 minutes, because you don't want to cook it all the way cooked. Because if you do that, it's going to be so soft when you put it into your crock pot that it's pretty much just going to turn to mush, okay? So you want to cook it just a little bit underdone. And while that's over there cooking, we're going to go ahead and get this part done. Now I'm using ground beef, about a pound. If you like sausage, you could do sausage here. You could do half ground beef, half sausage. You can do turkey. Whatever you like is the meat that you will put in here, okay? And then I had some bell pepper chopped up in my freezer, so I just took a little bit of that and added that right in there also. So if y'all hear anything that sounds like a train wreck, it's my crazy cat running up and down the hall, and he's got the zoomies for some reason, and I don't know why, but I don't ask questions. I just, I'm just here to serve him. That's what that's what happens. So go ahead and get your meat all browned up. Then I'm going to season just a little bit. I'm going to put some onion powder and some garlic powder and a little bit of salt and pepper. Don't overdo it on the salt because we're going to put jarred sauce in here and pepperoni and cheese, and all that has a lot of salt, so you don't want to, it to be overly salty. But I did a pizza pasta video one time for y'all, but it was in the oven and it turned out fabulous as well. So I'll link that video for y'all up above and down below if you want to check out the one for the oven if you don't want to use the crock pot or you don't have a crock pot. So anyway, once I got my meat and my vegetables where I wanted them, I got my, onions and peppers kind of soft and my meat was done. I went ahead and added in about a tablespoon of minced garlic. You got to keep the vampires away. I don't know though. Some of these movies with vampires on them, y'all, I don't know if I want to keep them away. I believe I would let them come visit if they wanted to. But anyway, let me move on from that. So go ahead and get that, let it cook for about 20-30 seconds once you add the garlic. So now for our crock pot, we're going to put everything together. Go ahead and give your crock pot a little spray. And that way our noodles and the cheese won't stick. So then we're just going to start adding everything. Now I'm adding in, you need 2 jars, like the regular size jars of sauce. And I think they're like 24 ounces or something. But this is the one, if y'all watched my baked ziti video, that was the sauce I used, the spaghetti sauce, and it is so good. There's no added sugar, so I feel like I'm being kind of healthy, even though everything else in this is not healthy. So I added a jar of spaghetti sauce and a jar of pizza sauce, which is exactly what she used in her video also, but that just happened to be what I had at my house, so it worked out perfect. Then I added in 1 can of petite diced tomatoes. If you like big hunks of tomato, then you can definitely add the regular, but I didn't want real big pieces of tomato, so I added the petite diced. Then I added in, I don't know, that's not much Italian seasoning. I'm not the biggest fan of Italian seasoning, y'all. I feel like some recipes need it, but when I have to use it, I don't like to use a whole lot of it. So add as much as you want though, okay? So once you get that added in, we're going to go ahead and add in, I added about 1/4 of a cup of water to the bottom of my jars of sauce just to get the rest of the sauce out of there. That's all that was. And then you're going to add in your ground beef and your vegetables once you've drained them real good. You don't want to put the grease in there, drain them off, and then add that to your pot. And if you want to add anything extra like olives or mushrooms or stuff like that, you can certainly add all that in there too. So then I'm going to add some pepperonis, and this is a gigantic pack, but what the recipe calls for is one of the small packs, like 3.5 ounces or something, 3.5, 3.4, something like that. But it's pizza pasta. I feel like you can't have too much pepperoni, so I just grabbed a couple of handfuls and just dumped it over in there. And I'm telling y'all, you'll see in a minute, this makes the whole crock pot is full. It makes a ton, so add as many pepperonis as you want. Then you're going to add in your mozzarella cheese, and I followed pretty close to the recipe on the amount of cheese I used, which is very unusual for me. And if I make this again, which I'm sure I will because it was really good, I'm probably going to add more cheese because you can't have too much cheese, right? So I added probably a cup or so of the mozzarella cheese, and then I added my noodles. I drained my noodles and added those in, and then you're just going to stir this all together. Make sure that you get everything real good and combined, especially make sure you get your noodles like into the sauce, and that way when they're finishing cooking in here, they won't dry out. You know what I'm saying? Because if you just leave the noodles on the top with no sauce on them, they're just going to get hard and crispy. Unless you like hard and crispy noodles, then by all means leave them up there. But we undercooked them, remember? So we want to make sure that we let them cook the rest of the way. So once it's all mixed up, I just kind of flattened mine out so I could see as it was cooking if I was going to need to add any more liquid to it. And I didn't end up needing to. But you're going to put the lid on this, let it cook on low for about 3 hours, okay? After 3 hours, this is what it's going to look like. And so I just give it a good old stir. Look how thick and delicious that looks. I'm telling y'all, this stuff makes a ton. We've been eating on it for days. And it's delicious every day that we eat it. It's really, really good. But just mix it up. Make sure that all of your noodles, you know, got cooked and everything. And then the last step for this, you're going to add a little bit more mozzarella cheese right to the top because, again, what did I say? I've said it 12 times in this video probably. You can't have too much cheese. So add a little layer, good layer of mozzarella cheese right to the top. And again, when I make this again, I will probably add more cheese only because I love cheese, y'all. And if it's pizza pasta, it needs a lot of cheese, I feel like. So you're going to put that on there. Then you're going to put the lid back on, leave it on low, and just let it go until your cheese is all nice and melted, okay? So this is what she looks like once your cheese melts on there. Y'all, this stuff is so good. The grandkids came to visit and they ate some of it too. My granddaughter ate 2 bowls of it. And she's only 4. So she really enjoyed Mimi's pizza pasta. But this is it, y'all. It is super delicious, so customizable, and y'all got to try it. Love pizza. Okay, love pizza is one of my favorite things, but you know, it's not the healthiest thing in the world. So I thought I'll cut a little bit of the not so good stuff out by leaving the crust out of this one, and I'm just gonna make some pizza bowls. So I'm gonna just saute my bell peppers with about, I don't know, maybe half an onion. I'm just gonna cook those until they're soft. Now, when I started doing this, I knew I was going to need ground beef, but I was thinking I would cook it all together in another pot, and then I changed my mind. So that's the only reason you see me cooking this separately from the meat. You can just throw your meat, onions, and bell pepper in there together. So all I did was took about a pound of ground beef, and I'm just going to brown that up. I do add a little bit of garlic powder and onion powder to mine. That's completely up to you. I just like to season up the meat a little bit. I didn't add any salt and pepper though, because this is going into a bowl where we have some other salty things, but season it however you want. Once your meat is brown, you're going to drain that, and then we're going to go ahead and mix in the vegetables. And then you can do mushrooms. You could do sausage instead of ground beef. Whatever you like on your pizza, mix it all in here together. Okay? These are super, super simple to throw together. And this is, I mean, everything that I made in this video to me are some of my favorite things, and they're super delicious. But these pizza bowls were better than expected. So now what I'm going to do, because it is a pizza bowl, is I'm going to add a little bit of pizza sauce. I think I ended up adding maybe a total of about a half a cup. I just put a little bit in there, mix it up real good, and then see if you need to add some more. I'm not a huge pizza sauce fan. Like, even if I order a pizza like takeout from a restaurant, I usually tell them light sauce. That's just my personal preference, but you can add as much as you want. If you want it dripping in sauce, you can absolutely do that, because you know what? It's your house and it's your pizza bowl. However you like it, it'll be perfect. You could also, I'm going to add pepperoni, but you could also chop pepperoni up and stick it over in there. Now, these are the containers I'm using for everything that I'm making today, with the exception of one, which you'll see. But for anything like this, these are the containers I'm using. I love these. They're the perfect size for like one serving. Now, all of these recipes, almost all of these recipes, I think I've done before. And the recipes that I'm going to link below for y'all are the recipes for the full, like if you were just making it in one pan, okay? With the exception of these. I don't ever make this in a big pan. These are always, you know, individual servings. But everything else, it'll tell you like how to make one large chicken pot pie. It's the same exact thing. You're just making it on a smaller scale for like what I'm doing in this video, okay? So definitely, you know, you just know that you can adjust those. But again, these are like the perfect, I don't know why I got off on that tangent. I don't even remember what I was talking about, but I like these little containers. I don't remember exactly what size they are, but again, I will link them down below for y'all because this is what I'm going to use for this whole video because I just had a lot. I think it comes in a pack of 50 or something. So once you get your base layer, your meat down on the bottom, I'm just going to add a little bit, a little bit, that's a relative word, but, or relative words, I guess, a relative phrase. I just add some mozzarella cheese to the top. You can use low fat or fat free, whatever it is you like to use, or you can use a pepper jack if you want it a little bit spicy. Whatever you want to add is perfect. And then I'm just going to add some pepperonis right to the top. You can use turkey pepperoni if you want to. Anything will work. And the one of the reasons I like these containers so much is because one side is like the shiny part of the lid and the other side is paper. So you can write on here what it is. Just make sure that you let everything cool completely before you put the lids on them. I had already let this cool, so mine were cool enough to go in there. And then I just write on the top what it is. And if I'm giving it to somebody, I will usually also write the cooking instructions on there, just so they'll know. But that is our 5 pizza bowls, y'all.